There was a single take shot, a movie called The Kiss. Actually, is all what we see there is a middle-aged couple. They are not particularly beautiful, they are not particularly ugly, but they kiss each other passionately, and that was enough for many people to say that that was immoral. So ever since that film, there were a lot of people that they were suspecting that things that were considered that should be considered immoral were being shown in the movies. And now that it was an industry and there were networks of cinemas, there was an incident in the early 20s that actually barely didn't have anything to do with the same movie business. However, it made the whole difference in the movie business. There was a comedian that was having a great success called Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle. And actually we will know about him the same way we know about Harold Lloyd or Buster Keaton. Actually, he co-starred several films with Buster Keaton, and Paramount Pictures paid him in a single year $2 million. That used to be a world of money. The situation is that he decided to go with a group of friends to an hotel and having fun during a weekend, and he just got into a room with an actress and model called Virginia Rapier. Suddenly she appeared bleeding, and she passed away, and he was accused of murder. Roscoe finally was acquitted, and her death was because of the side effects of an abortion made under bad conditions. He was able to avoid the jail. However, his career was totally finished. The incident will give the legal premise to a group that eventually will be known as the League of the Decency. Particularly when the talkies started, there was graphic violence, there was foul language, there were sexual insinuations, and so there was a guy who was the postmaster of the post office. And his name was William H. Hays. He gave his name to the Hays Code by the Catholic layman Martin Quigley and Jesuit priest Father Daniel A. Lord, and was redacted in 1929. That actually, if you have ever seen a movie, at the very ending there is an oval with certain letters. It's like a MPT, Motion Picture Association of America. It's something like that. Sometimes it says something like a television broadcast or blah blah blah, something like that. So that means that the movie has to follow the rules of the code. There were technical rules, and there were but most of the time, because of the content, no religion should be offended, no foul language. The good had to succeed all the time over evil, and of course there were many attempts, as we can see over here. For example, one of the rules said that it wasn't possible to show two persons on the same bed at the same time. So we have a scene like this one. I remember a filmmaker said they made us more creative, they didn't limit us. Actually, it was in 1934 when the Hays Code was finally applied. So we have over here to King Kong, that he was trying to remove the clothes of Ann Darrow. He was scratching her and smelling her, and so that was something very dirty. And actually they had to make a different scene because of the Hays Code. The situation is that there was a nationwide group of Catholics that every time they went to the church, they would make a certain pledge about not going to see an immoral movie. And they were already making many kind of things that there wasn't any censorship back then, and particularly after 1927 when the jazz singer appeared, like the first talkie, the first movie with sound.
Mammy, Mammy, the sun shines east, the sun shines west, but I know where the sun shines best.
In this film, Ginger Rogers asked to Fred Astaire about the horse. What did the owner say about the animal? Back then, the word "them" was totally forbidden by the code. So he answers, "I don't know, miss. He didn't give a..." I was mentioning that we were going to talk about the direct relationship between the box office and the censorship. So in 1939, it was released Gone with the Wind, that became the box office champ of all the times. And it's very meaningful that at the very ending of the film, the character played by Vivian Leigh, Scarlett O'Hara, is descending the stairs, and because Red Butler, played by Clark Gable, is leaving her, and then she says, Red, what am I gonna do? Where am I gonna go?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
David O. Selznick, the producer of Gone with the Wind, wrote a letter to William H. Hays requesting him to remove the word "them" from the ones that were prohibited by his code. He explained that several publications already used that expression very often. So the League of Decency finally had to accept it. Everyone of the group, even the skeptical Mr. Brin, that appears briefly in Martin Scorsese's film The Aviator, because they had an issue with the emphasis on the actress's breasts that Hughes wanted to use in his new film. So we have the Hays Code ended in 1967, and something very interesting happened because announcing the death of the code. Actually, the poster of a new film said "Gives a damn," and also is what the new freedom of the screen is all about. A comedy with black humor. You have to understand that the Vietnam War was still going on. In those years, only Martin Scorsese dared to make a short film, The Big Shape, just with the symbolic meaning, implying that this very clean bathroom suddenly was full of blood. And this guy was shaving, and suddenly the whole thing just implied that the whole thing was a bloodbath, the Vietnam War. The films that made a serious criticism against the Vietnam War came much later, until the Vietnam War had ended, but they took the liberty to make a comedy with black humor that was Robert Altman's MASH, starring Donald Sutherland. For the newer generations, he is the tyrant of the Hunger Games, and Elliot Gould. And there was a very young Robert Duvall, even before the Godfather original movie. So this film MASH was about a medical unit in Vietnam, and that they were taking care of the soldiers that were wounded back there, and and they have a kind of acid joke. So at the middle of the movie, there is one scene when they are making a copy of the image of The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, but actually the one in the middle that seemed to be in the place of Jesus was Donald Sutherland. The government, particularly the military area, they were agreeing with Hollywood to break these kind of rules that couldn't be broken before. Because in World War II, the American Army took over the Disney studios after the attack to Pearl Harbor. And they made them create cartoons, especially for adults, for grown-ups, particularly for the American soldiers. Like Chicken Little, there was a fox. He was reading a psychology book at the very beginning of the film, and then he hypnotizes to Little Chicken in order to manipulate to all the chickens in the barn to put them in a certain spot, and he will eat them at the end, and then he wins. Actually, it is something unthinkable that is in a cartoon, a sad ending, and the whole thing was to warn to the American soldiers that the possibility that the German soldiers could win the Nazis, it was possible that they could win the war. Also, Warner Brothers had its own cartoons, Private Snafu, which is a military acrostic. That means situation, normal, all, folded up. Actually is fucked up. The Snafu soldier seemed to be represented as an ugly one, but he met very beautiful girls. The same team that made the legendary Looney Tunes were the same: Chuck Jones, Bob Clampett, and even the same Dr. Seuss. And the legend himself, Mel Blanc, for the voices.
What's up, Doc? Is something fishy about that?
The same short film also marked the debut of another character whose vocal characterization was entirely a blank original, Daffy Duck.
Don't let it worry you, Skipper. I'm just a crazy darn fool duck.
And that's all, folks.
A new film appeared, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. One of the rules of the Hays Code was a technical rule that said that there couldn't be a real silence in any track. The different tracks, not the music and the sound effects and direct sounds and dialogue and everything, it wasn't allowed to have real silence. And 2001: A Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick had such a power that he did whatever he wanted. So it's the first film that actually had silence in order to achieve scientific accuracy. That was one of the remaining rules of the for example, there is a very romantic movie that probably you wouldn't believe that it was breaking the rules that were already set until that moment. That was Guess Who Is Coming to Dinner, starring Spencer Tracy, his lover in the real life, Katharine Hepburn, and the newcomer black actor Sidney Poitier, and Catherine Houghton, who happened to be in the real life Katharine Hepburn's niece, as the daughter. So they react really surprised when they learn that the boyfriend is a black man, and his parents react exactly the same when they are in the airport, when they realize that his girlfriend, his fiancée, is a white lady. And since the reason of their trip is to arrive to a dinner where they should ask the girlfriend's hand for their son, that's why the name of the film is called Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And the reason is that, well, and one of the rules in the Hays Code said that there couldn't be interracial couples. So, but in this case, it was very conventional in the sense that it was Spencer Tracy seemed to be a half-retired American. He was fulfilling the American dream. He was rich. He was living his elderly age in a nice way, and you know that probably what he should have expected as a dream son-in-law, that would be somebody exactly the way Sidney Poitier was. He had 3 careers. He had a great job. He was totally steady economically, and he loved very deeply and sincerely to his daughter. So he, you know, it was something so ideal, but there was a single detail that he was a black man. The doctor, because he was a doctor in something, Sidney Poitier, he said, well, if you're not going to allow me to become your son-in-law and marry your daughter, you just have to say it and I leave. That will do it. And so they are hesitating. Obviously, Katharine Hepburn was, even when she was accepting more, that they both were shocked because they never expected that the daughter's boyfriend would be a black guy. So at the very ending, he gives the immortal preachy lecture speech. If you love each other the way we used to love your mother and me, he tells to his daughter, Spencer Tracy, then if you are so lovely human beings, you should be together and you have to get married. Something like that. And the Sidney Poitier's parents were hesitating, particularly the father. And actually, Spencer used a swear word just to define to the people that wouldn't be agree with their marriage.
You can try to ignore those people, or you can feel sorry for them and for their prejudices and their bigotry and their blind hatreds and stupid fears. But where necessary, you'll just have to cling tight to each other and say, screw all those people.
They pass to have the dinner, and there is a very romantic song at that ending. There was also they were breaking the rules, like for example, Bonnie and Clyde, Arthur Penn starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway as Clyde Barrow and Bonnie Parker, the famous thieves, that they seemed to give a romantic idea because they loved each other, and many people saw them like heroes during the Great Depression because they were stealing to the banks that they were ruining to a lot of people.
This year's Miss Bonnie Parker.
Glad to meet you.
I'm Clyde Barrow.
Right.
We rob banks.
Because they will take over their possessions, their houses and everything. So since Bonnie and Clyde, they were stealing to the American banks, many people saw them like heroes. We have a recent new version with a very different point of view, starring Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson as in Netflix, I think. They were making the roles of federal agents from the FBI. That they were the ones that were in charge of capture to Bonnie and Clyde. And actually, violence was very graphic when Bonnie and Clyde are killed at the ending. In the original film of 1967,
Hey.
That was like I Love You. And a little later, in 1972, The Godfather just broke the box office record that was set by Gone with the Wind in 1939. And it was also we had a lot of graphic violence. Not that it was so that realistic, but there was blood. The triton, also known as the Devil's Interval, was forbidden by the church for many years. The composer Nino Rota decided to use it every time there was an execution or several executions at the baptism scene.
Michael Francis Rizzi, do you renounce Satan?
I do renounce him.
And all his works?
I do renounce them.
And all his pomps?
I do renounce them.
Michael Rizzi, will you be baptized? In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Michael Rizzi, go in peace, and may the Lord be with you. Amen.
And also more graphic violence in Sam Peckinpah's Straw Dogs. Here, Dustin Hoffman and his wife were besieged at their country house by a group of individuals that were looking for the guy that had been seen for the last time with a girl that was related to them and was missing.
Give me the gun, Tom. Out of the way, I'm going in. Keep the gun pointing in, he won't get near you. I've got you, Tom! What's the matter, Tom?
Or even more extreme, like in Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange.
Ludwig van. Ninth Symphony, fourth movement.
This is probably the only single shot that Stanley Kubrick did in a single take.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
And precisely the very, very famous Sonny Corleone's death that is totally massacred with machine guns. Coppola will admit that he copied the scene from Bonnie and Clyde. He said, if you're gonna copy from the best. We have that 1972, The Godfather, 1973, The Exorcist, that we already know that it was very graphic, and we already know about the different scenes, the scene of the crucifix and all that. And 1975, Jaws, again, blood, graphic violence, and also we have in 1977 Star Wars. Actually, this scene belongs to The Last Jedi from 2017, which is the 8th of the 12 films available of the series. Actually, this is quite an iconic photo. We have here to George Lucas. Next to him, to his right side, is Brian De Palma, who made The Untouchables and some other important films like Carlitos Way. On the other side, on his left side, is Robert Zemeckis, responsible for Forrest Gump and the Back to the Future trilogy. And also just next to Brian De Palma, we will find to the one and only Martin Scorsese. As you know, De Niro's partner and Leonardo DiCaprio's partner for so many years. Goodfellas, Casino, and many others. And next to Martin Scorsese, on his right side is Steven Spielberg. Of course, responsible for Jaws, E.T., Jurassic Park, and so many others as producer too. And then Francis Ford Coppola on the right side, and Ron Howard on the other side, responsible for the Da Vinci Code trilogy. Here we can see, since 1977 list, that might be a little partial. There might be some other sources that wouldn't be agree. The first place was The Godfather. I understand that for a while it used to be The Exorcist, and now we have to Star Wars in 1977. And of course there have been some other important films. Actually, I knew from a source that Jaws was once upon a time the biggest box office champ, but according to this one is not. And also we have to Steven Spielberg breaking his record for the second time in 1982 with the Extraterrestrial. And also, of course, there might be considering the revenues of the times that it has been showed in open signal on the television, and also DVD rentals and the video cassette rentals in the old days. And today the traditional platforms and pay-per-view systems and streamings and the same purchases of the video cassettes and DVDs and everything is taken in consideration. Actually, still today, some people think that if you compare the numbers of back in 1939, when Gone with the Wind was the champ of the box office, well, if you make the right proportion and the right comparison, it will still be the absolute champ. Actually, it might be subjective depending on the different sources that every list has taken the data from. But it's also important to see that this list actually started from 1977, so probably the movies I said from the beginning, like Jaws or The Exorcist, were the right ones. And we have, for example, here Avengers, the Endgame in the third place. And right now we have to Star Wars, The Force Awakens in the fourth place, and once upon a time we also had Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade in the fourth place. This is kind of subjective, you see. So thank you very much. Eventually we will analyze the very different kind of movies which is like the auteur theory. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. Please don't forget to give a like and subscribe and share it with your friends. Bye.